And to a certain extent, like, there are limitations based on current technology, and there are limitations.
An attempt, a plea, maybe stop guns, do minor limitations on guns. Interactive, there is a limitation in terms of, there is a limitation to your ability to explore everything, see everything.
I like the whole, the statute of limitations on spoilers, When does that run out? I mean, because of other real world limitations that are stopping me from doing that. I'm not going to go in depth about it.
Almost to start tidying it up and defining where its limitations are isn't such a good thing. Like, yeah, I'm still going to talk about is all these different individual independent cultures without the limitations of fascism. And they can act individual, start to whatever. Right? I know there are limitations, but if you can, commute in, because it's just so much cheaper.
Exists and therefore has ultimate power because it transcends the physical limitations of reality and can do all these
potential. Once you know something, you know its limitations, you know its strengths. Now, yes, but game designers can't, there are just certain limitations. They cannot limitations, and he is very annoyed about them, and he is very angry about these limitations and about the fact that he wants to be out there and
be a Let's Player, but I mean there's some practical limitations about that are being stopped because of other real world limitations.
I like the way it encourages you to have limitations, to play with limitations. You are being true to yourself despite the limitations of nature. And of course this is a different culture, society.
Is very sentimentally significant for me. But at the same time I am feeling its limitations, especially as
we can fucking do our best to reduce the damage and do damage limitation to ensure that this does not happen. To a place where man is free to dream and innovate and fuck the limitations is nice. Right up until the point, greedy bastard.
I, as a liberal Brit, in a world where kind of police have limitations and they can't just steal shit and they can't just
fate, but I do believe in factual limitations to the choices one has available. For instance, I think we can all agree that really wanting is, I want the game to be a game because of this limitation in terms of, the disconnect between story encourages you to have limitations, to play with limitations. In that the first time I played Skyrim, I would never sleep because I mean, obviously, to a certain extent, if my computer has physical limitations, then yeah, but what? A plea, maybe stop guns, do minor limitations on guns. It's
for any kind of video, the only limitation being I don't have the money, so like I can get a new tract, but I don't think those limitations are going to be there for much longer. Like, for the moment, there might be certain technological limitations, certain
but at a certain point there are limitations of heat, and physically you can't short circuit it. We can. But Trump is fucking scary right now. But ultimately, the office of president has limitations, right? Trump
plays as well as I would want to because of technological limitations of my computer and that my own.
Okay. In the sense that I like the limitations it places. I like how it makes you have to be clever. How it stops it means you do have to be savvy. It means you do have to have limitations on what you do. Okay,
Be a lot of people here with a lot of weapons. You don't have to take everything, okay? Limitation, and it is a serious, like,
essentially, there will be limitations, there will be regulation, but there will not be a banning, there will not be
a sense of familiarity, and it's when does the statute of limitations or spoilers run out? When
regularly struggle against the patriarchal limitations of society, they might be the strongest and the
gonna be able to create the Farsh Nuke series or whatever, so there will be limitations with regards to the quality of any work that you wish me to produce, but
have a limitation that ISIS and Daesh don't. Okay? I mean, well, we don't know where the second episode's going to go, but even for him, he's very aware of his limitations, and he is very annoyed about them, and he is very angry. And to be honest, right, that limitation means that I mean, I know that genuinely there's been a lot of harassment on Twitter that is like, no, I know the limitations of my body, I know the situation I am in, I know I am stuck, I'm just trying to get the money to not. The rules here, I'm gonna start imposing limitations and being a complete dickhead to everyone. Essentially, there will be limitations, there will be regulation, but there will not be a banning, there will not be a gated. And the way that sort of the limitations there are like the quality of scanning, activeness, and doesn't have any limitations in terms of morality or regulation or police, then response to political correctness. They are a movement formed in response to the idea that there are limitations based on what you can or cannot say. You know, there are certain practical limitations that are going on there of like, well, what needs to would be literally saying, you can kill people now. And yes, there would be limitations. Of course there would be. Because of the very limitations of the budget, it's gonna be, because of the limitations of the budget, and because you're gonna have
certain technological limitations, certain programming limitations that are in effect. But I don't
think they have done that. There are no quibbles, there are no limitations, there is just, you do whatever you want, right? You know, like, if you want to be something, the limitations of natural biology and selection say you can't be.
You have to, it can be played very well, but there are obvious limitations, and you can be easily curb stomped
To have it work. So you've kind of got to be kind of serious about it. And yet, because of the very limitations of the budget, it's gonna be
reasonably stand to get there. I mean, obviously there are certain limitations, you know, of like, okay, but based on current technology, and there are limitations based on, you know, on free time.